Man, Gravity Falls. It's amazing how well of a series it was. I mean, it's just something so unexpected.
I know, and I'm comfortable with that.
It was something you just didn't think Disney, of all places, would make. I mean, the humor alone was so good. The characters were just amazing. It's just surprising that this came from Disney. I mean, you sort of would expect it maybe from Cartoon Network even, but Disney, that was definitely something that just caught everyone by surprise. But thank goodness Disney did make this, because this has to be one of my all-time favorite animated shows.
What is happening here?
It's just so amazing. It's so good. It works so well in so many different aspects. There's no way to not love it. It just turned out perfectly well. The main thing that worked out so well for the series was definitely the characters. They were characters that were just relatable in what they did, and basically written so well that you could put them in whatever situation you wanted to, and it would still work because those characters are just so strong. Basically, if you wanted to create a spin-off series, which I would highly enjoy, it would still work regardless of what situation Dipper or Mabel or Grunkle Stan or any of those characters are put in, because they work so well. They're just written perfectly that it just doesn't matter what type of dilemma they're in, it just would turn out perfectly right, because we fell in love with such strong, great characters. Another great thing about this series was the humor. I mean, the type of jokes they told in this, it was something both kids and adults can enjoy. Some jokes being stuff that obviously would go over a kid's head, but that's what really works so well with this series. It appeals to both kids and adults alike.
Mabel? The future is in the past. Onward, Sail
Hell, I think even more adults enjoy this series than kids. And I'm perfectly fine with that. But like I said, it's still kind of odd because this is coming from Disney. They try to appeal to both kids and adults, but this show definitely appeals more to adults. And that's just surprisingly good. It just works out so perfectly well here. Some of the jokes can be pretty obscure, and obviously go over a kid's head, but it's still a good joke. Some of them are pretty dirty, and I mean dirty if you have that kind of mind like me.
But I'm about to meet her parents. Her dad is an octopus man.
But it's still good. It still works. And that's just why we love this series so much. Another really great aspect of it was definitely the lessons. I mean, some of these lessons were things that mainly were aimed towards adults. Definitely aimed towards adults. And I just found that so interesting. Like, mainly the lesson for Soos. His lesson was that he was abandoned by his father and would sometimes get a card on his birthday from him saying, hey, maybe next time I'll be there. And by the end of the episode, the main takeaway was that, hey, he obviously didn't care to actually put effort into seeing me, so why should I care about him? I obviously should care about the people who are willing to sacrifice something of themselves for me. And I just think that is just a really, really good lesson, especially to teach to kids.
Soos, what about meeting your dad?
Well, birthdays are supposed to be spent with the people who care about you. But you know what? That dude didn't care about me enough to visit me once, let alone fight monsters through time and space like you dudes. I mean, you had a gladiator fight just to make me happy. I've been being ridiculous this whole time. Whoever my dad was, he could take a hike. I know who my family is now. And it's you dudes. Thanks for giving me the best birthday ever.
It's just so good. Just amazing how well, what lessons they can teach in this. Some being the more obvious lessons, you know, don't abandon your family. Remember you have them. The idea of trust no one, they challenge that here. It's like, you always have someone to trust. Whether it be friends or family, you have someone. And that is just another reason to love this series. Just another great reason. When I say this series has amazing characters, I mean it. Mabel obviously being the fan favorite for good reason. She is so energetic and hyperactive and so crazy and weird. It's easy to love this character. It's easy to love her. But the thing is, she's not perfect. She definitely is flawed, mainly in the fact that she always wants things to go great. And that can always be a problem, because whenever she pushes too hard, it can end up backfiring big time. And that's a good lesson for kids, because it basically says pushing too hard to make something work, it doesn't mean it's supposed to work. And that's something a lot of people should learn.
What did you just do? I've let these guys pick on me for years to keep this group together, and now they've totally fallen apart. But we were all starting to finally hang out together. I was one of the gang. Well, unless you can break up Robbie and Tambry immediately, there is no gang. I have no more friends, and neither do you. I'm gonna eat this. Mabel, what did I tell you about staying out of Robbie's personal life?
I know. I just wanted to be a good matchmaker. I never should have gotten love potion from the love god.
Of course, we don't just love Mabel because she's a flawed character. No, it's obvious she's energetic, she's crazy, it's her wild nature. That's what we love about her. She's just so positive about everything. It's hard not to like her. That's the thing about it. She's just a very good character. She's gonna be one of the most memorable characters from this series. If you don't remember her, something's wrong with you. Something's obviously wrong with you.
Agreed.
Dipper is definitely a great character as well. He's definitely a polar opposite to Mabel. Like, he's basically the method to Mabel's madness. That's basically it. He's the guy who, he can have fun. He's not a stick in the mud all the time. He's a fun-loving guy. He can be a little overzealous about trying to reach his goals as well. Like, he's obviously very obsessed with the unknown, the mystery behind Gravity Falls. And sometimes that can kind of backfire on him. Sometimes that gets him to the point where he might put himself over his own sister's happiness.
What is wrong?
We messed up the timeline. Pacifica saw the flyer and went Waddles before I did. She took Waddles, Dipper!
Oh, Mabel, I'm sorry.
It's okay. We just need to go back and do things differently.
Mabel, wait. Look, I did the math. In any other timeline, Wendy ends up going out with Robbie. I can't mess this day up again.
But if we don't go, then I'll lose Waddles forever!
And it obviously backfires on him, but he learns his lesson. He understands, I can't be selfish on this. I truly can't. And that's just an amazing way to write a kid character. Someone who's like, I'm not gonna just be selfish. They really know how to play up the sibling rivalry for this series. It does very well for both characters. They both play off each other so great. They both are willing to sacrifice something for the other. Dipper sometimes sacrifices a little more for Mabel, but they still are willing to sacrifice for each other's sake. And that's just something that shows they are just a great dynamic duo. They just work perfectly off of each other, and they are just a very memorable twins. They're very memorable twins, and we will never forget them.
Thanks, man.
Grunkle Stan, he's definitely an outright jerk. Like, you cannot deny Grunkle Stan is a full-blown jerk. But damn it, he's that lovable type of jerk. He's the type who definitely has a hard exterior, but definitely has a heart of gold on the inside. He is a guy who says, I love my family. I would do everything to protect my family. And that's something that just knocks him out from being just an absolute jerk. He's the type of jerk you can easily love because of who he is truly. As being someone who just says that family is basically the most important.
I wanted to say that you're gonna hear some bad things about me, and some of them are true. But trust me, everything I've worked for, everything I care about, it's all for this family.
Mabel, what if he's lying? This thing could destroy the universe. Listen to your head.
Look into my eyes, Mabel. You really think I'm a bad guy?
And that is also another good lesson. It's just something that adds very well to his character.
My greatest achievement. Probably should have worn pants.
Soos. He's definitely one of those lovable idiots. He's just one of those guys who definitely doesn't get it a lot of the times. He means well, but he learns a lesson if he does fuck up. If he does something that, you know, hurts his friends or something, he feels bad about it, and he does try to actually fix it. Instead of just, he's an idiot who just doesn't acknowledge the fact that he messed up. They have it so, yeah, he messed up, he's gonna fix it. He acknowledges he messed up, and that's just great. He's also a guy you can feel sorry for in a lot of different ways. Mainly like in the fact that he, you know, couldn't find a girlfriend. But I like the lesson they also teach using him, that don't worry, you'll find someone. You can find someone that's probably gonna like you for who you are. And I just like that. I like how they executed that.
Dude, that's awesome that you're a grown man riding a little train like that. You're totally like owning it.
Huh? Oh yeah. I'm like, if it's fun, do it, you know?
Exactly. Being an adult is the worst. Skewering meat, remembering to pay bills. I just want to ride tiny trains all day.
Soos is definitely a lovable guy. There's nothing to really hate about him. He's an idiot, but like I said, he learns his lesson. That's how you write an idiot character. Does something stupid, if it messes with the main character, they learn the lesson and they try to fix that problem that they created. And that's how you should write a perfectly good idiot character.
Nailed it.
Wendy, she's definitely that character that everyone likes because how laid back she is. That's basically it.
Okay, I'm not actually laid back. I'm stressed like 24/7. Have you met my family?
She's, you know, just takes everything in stride. She's that teenager you probably knew as a kid that just took whatever dilemma was coming their way completely in stride. Just was like, I'm chill about it, I don't care. And that's likable. It's not as powerful as, you know, Mabel, Dipper, Soos, or Grunkle Stan, but she's still a great character. Someone you can enjoy. She's one of those characters who's like, yeah, you could sit down and probably talk about some stuff. She's that type of character, and I have no real gripes with her. She's good. I like her.
Boosh!
I'll admit I'm not much of a fan of the way they wrote her and Dipper's relationship. In a sense, I don't like the fact that Dipper has a crush on her, but she's, you know, out of his age range. I just feel like, let's just not. You know, we know where this is gonna go. And to be fair, they killed it off early enough. They didn't let it manifest into something horrible. It's just, I kind of wish they didn't bother. But that's my only major gripe, if anything. It's sort of a minor gripe. It doesn't really get too much in the way of things, but it does call for some good lessons to be learned. Definitely calls for some good lessons to be learned.
Oh, man.
Listen, Dipper, I'm like super flattered, but I'm too old for you. I mean, you know that, right?
Now, Grunkle Ford, I gotta admit, he's not a terrible character. He's good. It's just, I can't get too much of a feed off him. He's one of those guys who, takes his job so seriously that he neglects his family. And as we see from Grunkle Stan, he teaches you need to always be there for family. Family is important. And I guess that's good in the sense because, they're twins. So they're supposed to have some type of offset of each other. And, yeah, that does work in a good contrast. Ford is one of those, I don't really care too much for family. It can be kind of suffocating. He even sort of tries to teach that to Dipper.
There's also Mabel. She'd be all alone in California.
Mabel will be fine on her own. She has a magnetic personality. I watched her become pen pals with the pizza delivery man in the 60 seconds he was at the door.
Gosh, we've never really been apart before.
And isn't it suffocating? Dipper, can you honestly tell me you never felt like you were meant for something more?
I don't know.
But sometimes he operates more on logic, It's understandable. It's the emotion versus logic debate, if anything. And he definitely he's just more of those characters that, put his job over his family. But even still, he learns a lesson that, you gotta keep some of your family by. You can't just abandon them just because they don't share the similar interests. Boop, boop. Bill Cipher. Talk about your unusual villains. He is he's just outright original. That's all I can say. He's just original. Different. So different from anything you've ever seen. He's just demented, but in a very weird sense. He's not like Joker or anything. He's one of those will change things in very weird aspects, and you don't know why. That's what makes him fascinating. You don't know why he's so crazy. You don't know why he does a lot of the things he does. He just does it. It's just like, wow.
You deserve a prize. Here, have a head that's always screaming.
But that could be why so many people love him. He's just so different and unusual that he's not something you expect. He's something you just don't know what to think too much of, but are ultimately fascinated by to try to figure out what he's all about. Now, the mystery angle of the series, mainly in terms of the plot, that is something that's they do this cleverly. The main thing is there are always clues hidden about in each episode. Like hell, at the end there's always a cryptogram that you can easily decipher. Well, I don't know about easily, I don't decipher them, but there's something you can take and try to decipher and learn little bits and pieces here and there. And there's also little bits and pieces to the mystery aspect of the show hidden throughout the series for you to try to find and figure out. And that's just so clever. It's really something that tries to enthrall you and try to capture you into its world, trying to get you more involved in this series. And I just have to say, that is pure genius. To be able to just get people so involved, so hooked onto wanting to find out what the next thing is. And you can, by not just waiting for the next episode, you can actually, go and try and decipher these things, try to put pieces to the puzzles together. That's just clever, absolutely clever.
So far, so good.
But Bill Cipher's not the only crazy thing about this series. Just about everything that they go up against is just so weird and wacky. It's just like it's like Bill Cipher. It's fascinating. You want to find out more. Like, that's basically what Dipper is. He's that curiosity that we all have. Because when we come into Gravity Falls, we wonder what is up with this place. All these crazy, weird occurrences, all these crazy creatures. It's just something that fascinates us because we want to find out what is going on with this series. And that's where the cryptograms and all that come into play. They basically help answer some of those questions. And like I said, that's just clever. It's absolutely clever. It's a perfect way to enthrall you into a series, to make you ask questions while still answering some questions along the way. It's a great way to get you hooked. It absolutely is.
Oh, shucks. It's only our lifelong passion.
I'm kind of surprised that this series uses a lot of 80s culture for its humor. It's kind of odd. I mean, you would think that would hurt it, but no, it actually helps make the series a lot stronger. Most of the references to the 80s, I mean, if you didn't grow up in the 80s, then you still would get what they're trying to convey, or it still works with what they're doing in the episode. And a lot of the jokes, mainly the stuff with Mabel singing 80s power ballads, or parodies of 80s power ballads.
Excellent. Don't start unbelieving. Never, do not feel your feelings. I'm gonna do a flip.
Those still work in, you know, conveying her hyperactivity and whatnot, and her energy, basically. So even if you don't get the reference, it still works on its own merit because it's basically conveying the energy of Mabel. It also sort of sets a bit of a weird tone for Gravity Falls, and it still comes off as a timeless series. That's just something amazing, to be able to bring in culture from a totally different decade and still be able to come off timeless.
Yeah.
Weirdmageddon. Man, this is the big finish, the big finale for all of this. 2 seasons, and this is what it all led up to. This is one of the most unique post-apocalypses ever. I mean, everything that happens in this is just so crazy and weird, but it makes so much sense for this series. All this craziness, all this wackiness, it just perfectly fits. Bill basically wins by taking over all of Gravity Falls, and now plans to spread his weirdness across the galaxy and whatnot. In terms of end-all plans, I gotta say that's a good plan. It fits with what Bill Cipher is. He's this crazy guy who just wants to basically watch the world burn, who just wants to destroy shit because it's fun for him. That goes perfectly with his character, so everything that this led up to, it pays off greatly. But it's not all about Bill Cipher. They even answer some questions regarding Dipper and Mabel, like what was life like for them back home? And they answered that perfectly by showing it wasn't all that great.
And how do you like my new pigtails? Have fun, brat! Oh, you ruined my hair! Dipper, what do I do?
I don't know. Mabel, wait!
But they had each other. That's why they persevered through all that. It was mainly because they were just that strong together, that they had a good bond. It even taught Mabel a good lesson that yes, growing up can be bad, it can be scary, but just remember, you have people there for you to support you through all of it. And I just think that's a good lesson for kids.
We've always been there for each other. Mabel, I thought you were living a fantasy, but look at me. I actually thought I was gonna stay here and be Ford's apprentice. Spend my entire teens cooped up in a basement with a lab coat? How ridiculous is that? I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but whatever it is, you don't have to fear because we'll do it together. I'm not taking Ford's apprenticeship. We've traveled to heck and back to get you, and we're going back together.
Now, it was mainly split up into 3 parts. Part 1 being all of it starting and them trying to figure out the game plan of what to do. And they do basically do that. It's mainly them figuring out what's next. Mabel's been captured, now they have to go rescue her, and that's where part 2 comes in. So, and that's where they start to learn the lesson, and we figure out more about Dipper and Mabel. And it's great, it's executed perfectly. Part 3, that is where everything completely comes together. At the end of part 2, that's when we find out where everyone basically is, where Grunkle Stan is even. And we've come to find out that basically the Mystery Shack has been turned into a shelter because of the unicorn hairs that Ford used to protect the shack from Bill. So when Dipper and Mabel and Soos and Wendy show up at the shack, everyone basically that they know is there, except of course not a lot of the townspeople are there. They've been captured by Bill and turned into a giant throne. But a lot of the mystical creatures are still there. Hell, even Rumble McSkirmish is there.
Rumble McSkirmish?
Do not be afraid. Weird Mageddon has taught me there are some battles I cannot win. I am now Humble McSkirmish.
And the several times boy band, though they're of course beaten and battered. But basically everyone that we know is now in this finale. They made sure everyone from previous episodes show up. The Lilliputians show up, the gnomes show up, everyone's basically there. Or at least all the mysterious creatures are there. And so basically they come up with a plan to fight Bill, and that plan involves building a giant fighting robot, which was just absolutely awesome, and the fight was awesome. But they basically have their raid on Bill's castle, and they get their friends back, but now they need to figure out how do we get rid of Bill. So this is where the Cypher Wheel comes into play, the thing that we've all been seeing throughout the series and whatnot, and wondering what's it all about. I have to admit, it was kind of a type of thing. The way they did it, it didn't really live up to much. It just turned, we don't even know what it ultimately would have done had they succeeded with using it, because Bill actually stopped them before officially using it.
You've brought every threat to my power together in one easy-to-destroy circle!
Oh no!
So in that aspect, it could have been done a little better. It could have been used as the be-all, end-all. But for what they did do, they had to go with a sacrifice. And what they did was basically, they had to trick Bill into getting into one of their minds. Ford couldn't do it because he had a metal plate in his head. And that wouldn't work with what their plan was, which was to erase the memories of the person Bill's in. And that would erase Bill. But Ford had the plate in his head. So Grunkle Stan decides he'll do it. He sacrificed himself. And the way they did it, it was great. It was sad for the moment, but it didn't have as much emotional impact as it could have, mainly because by the end of it, he gets his memory back. I wish they had gone the route of Ford just helps Stan get his memory back over time. I would have been okay with that. That would have been a bit more okay, but it's a kid's show. You kind of have to have some type of happy ending. I just wish in terms of sacrifices they would have stuck with that, but what can you do? I do feel like this should have been an hour and 30 minutes. Like part 3 should have been an hour and 30 minutes. That way they can actually flesh out the characters a bit more, mainly the side characters. We could have gotten more interactions, mainly stuff like with Dipper and Pacifica. Would have been happy there, or Dipper and Mabel, some more interactions with Pacifica with the twins. I would have appreciated that a bit more.
I'm suing all of you.
But for what we got, this is a great finale, and it does leave you open to more questions. It does leave you open to maybe it could get a spinoff, because like I said, this could work as a spinoff. It could, because these are great characters. If you wanted to put them in a different situation, you can put them in a different situation, because the main reason why we kept coming back was for these characters. It did leave me wanting more, but I do have to say it's better than them leaving me absolutely disappointed. That I can say, as long as I'm not disappointed, I am satisfied with this ending. It is a great ending. It's better than them just outright coming up with something terrible and I'm just pissed off that they gave me something terrible. And I'm glad some things kind of got cleared up, mainly like Durlin and Blubs. They basically confirmed, yes, they are together. Basically, they couldn't go the full route. It's, I don't know, standards and practices, some crap.
Zap, zap! We're mad with power!
And love.
But they did basically confirm, yes, Durlin and Blubs are together. And I'm happy Disney's at least trying to be a bit more progressive on that case. I do have to say, I am going to miss this series, absolutely. I'm going to miss Dipper, I'm going to miss Mabel, I'm going to miss Grunkle Stan, Ford, Seuss, Wendy, everybody that we came across in this series I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss all the 80s culture they kept using. I'm going to miss the unique lessons that we learned on this journey, from dealing with growing up to always being there for your family to appreciating the people that are around you. I'm going to miss that. This is such a timeless series with timeless characters, with timeless adventures. And Alex Hirsch, thank you so much for creating this. Thank you. This is just a one-of-a-kind thing that can never be copied. This is something that can never be done again. It was lightning in a bottle, basically. That's what it was. A 1 in a million chance that it would work. And I truly mean it. Thank you, Alex Hirsch, for giving us these stories and these characters and these feelings. Thank you. Someday, I hope we do return to Gravity Falls. But until then, that's just a thought.
I just wish summer could last forever.
This is a huge opportunity for me.
I'm getting older. There's not that many Halloweens left.
Awkward sibling hug?
Awkward sibling hug. Pat, pat.
My ex-wife still misses me, but her aim is getting better. I'd fire all of you if I could. The kid's a loser. He's weak. He's an utter embarrassment.
I know who my family is now, and it's you dudes.
This summer was super boring until you showed up.
I trust you.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I had fun.
Hello, friend.
It's okay, dude. I had a good run.
I don't like your face!
Didn't you read my warnings? I should have been more like you when I was young. Isn't it suffocating?
Bill wants us to run and hide. He wants us to think he's invincible.
Guess I was good for something after all.
If I had only one wish, it would be to shrink all of you with the shrink ray and bring you home with us in my pocket.